Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to the Carolina Underground on this new episode coming to you live from the Replica Bat Cave. And I have with me tonight my partner in high crimes and misdemeanors hidden somewhere in the sparkling, deep, dark forests of Sparkleberry.
And we are not too terribly far away from the dismal forest.
Well,
About an hour.
That ain't too bad.
Yeah. But
It's
good
not too
evening,
bad at
sir.
all.
How
Good
in the
evening.
world are you?
Lord, if I was any better, couldn't anybody stand me. I'm sitting here rubbing little puppy butt fuzz.
All righty then. So you're in a good mood then this evening. I'll just go ahead and ruin that here right in just a minute. Go get him, big guy.
Oh, wonderful. Hold on a minute. Let me dip into my bag of self-medication and we'll get started.
Well, again, there's one of the things, right off the bat that we can get pissed off about is the.
Well, let's do it. And if we don't get pissed off, let's piss off somebody. Woo,
Well,
woo!
yeah, again, it's like, in the United States, because the first problem is anybody that does not realize that the problem that the citizenry of the United States has is our government. It has gotten out of control. And I'm talking federal,
Way
state,
out of
local,
control.
all the way from the office of the president down to your local dog catcher. Okay, it's become a massive Ponzi
Well,
scheme.
they ain't allowed to catch no dogs around here. If they're on my property, they're going to leave them damn dogs alone. I can tell you that right now.
I'm right there with you. But again, that's the big problem. So we were just talking about the situation with medication where Big Pharma and the government and the insurance companies collude so that we pay, ridiculously more than anywhere else in the world. And you have to go through, you can't just get a medication, especially if it actually does something.
Well, I mean, you can, but what they're going to do is they're going to arrest you and tell you it's a controlled substance.
Absolutely.
And then prosecute you till, it's twofold, because they're going to prosecute you saying you can't have the drugs. Well, if you get the drugs, you ain't going to be able to have a job to buy the drugs or get a prescription anyway. So it's a win-win situation for them, because then you're relying on them for everything.
Oh, absolutely. So, I can't, was it Will Rogers that said, or was it Samuel Clemens that said taxation with representation ain't so hot either?
It could have been both of them. They were both wise men.
That's true. Or it may have been neither one of them, and I may have just, said
sometimes. Well, I mean, it may have been something that you just dreamed up.
Well,
I mean, you did go to one of the most prestigious schools in the country.
That's true. I did go there. And they told me that I actually learned something, but it's
well, I can tell you, hey, they told me the same thing, and they 0 for 2 in my books.
Well, but again, okay, speaking about learning something, and I know you studied psychology, and one of the things
I did.
One of the
abnormal child developmental psychology.
Well, I'd have figured you for an abnormal child.
That's right.
Hey, your development.
I was on the front page of the paper at 5.
I believe you. Go ahead.
I really was.
What did you do?
Well, I wasn't really on the front page of the paper for something that I did.
Oh,
I happened to be in the hospital and was having surgery,
oh my goodness.
and I had my mom used to cross stitch, and I was running through the house and fell, and a sewing needle went up in my elbow,
Oh my goodness.
and so I was in the hospital having that taken out. Well, they were writing a story about retarded children and stuff like that, but they didn't have any children to take a picture of. So they asked my mom if they could take a picture of me. And I was sitting in like one of those old timey wheelchairs, with the wicker seats and the high back wood,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it was in shadow, so you couldn't see who I was. But I was on the front page of the paper talking about retarded youngins.
Well, that is a story I believe that I would have kept to myself or embellished in a
Well,
different way.
hey, at least this way, if some people say that I ain't got no damn sense, I'll say, well, I was on the front page of the paper.
There you go.
That's
Well,
right.
but the point of the matter, okay, we've talked about this before. I mean, in this world, there is good and evil. And
Yes.
evil is not stronger or more powerful than good. It's just easier.
Right.
Okay. But, again, the thing is, and I guess that I've answered my own question. Why is it when you could do well and do good,
Hmm.
people will choose to do evil? And I mean, again, we are oppressed. So I was watching Tucker Carlson news,
I'm
and
sorry.
buried somewhere deep in one of the well, we talked about delusion last week, I think it was,
Well,
right?
we in the era of delusion.
Right, where delusion is essentially believing something regardless of the fact that the facts prove the contrary. That is
Right.
delusion. Well,
We
so,
follow the science until the science is inconvenient.
right, inconvenient not for the citizenry, but inconvenient for the people that
The
want,
policies and
yeah,
the rhetoric they're trying to ram
exactly,
down our throats this week.
to find more inventive ways to take money away from the people who are producing, to give it to those who are not. So, any rate, now the 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 any rate, somewhere deep in one of the, and I've forgotten the number of the bill that was, or the name of the bill that was passed, but of course it's one of those lofty sounding things that does the exact opposite of what it says it does, something like
Hmm.
the Inflation Reduction Act kind of thing. But they have passed a law that says that it is okay for an illegal alien to vote in the federal election as long as they believe that they are a citizen at the time that they cast their vote.
Now wait a minute. Wait a minute. If they're here illegally,
Mhm.
that's more that they know they ain't a citizen. Trust me.
But
That's
but
a whole process, and you get this pretty little piece of paper in the frame
but
because you
if
stood
they
before a judge and take the oath.
but if they identify as a citizen at the time they are casting their vote, this allows them to do so legally.
Well,
Is
hey,
what they're saying.
I identify as a dump truck with mag wheels. Does that mean I can roll around and say beep beep and just run over people?
I reckon. Apparently, in this world, but that's the insanity of where we live. And this is the thing, again, this is evil, this is subjugation, this is tyranny, and it's tyranny of delusion. So if
Hmm.
you identify as a woman and you have an XY chromosome, you can still walk into a woman's bathroom. I mean, it's absurd. It is so, eh, you know.
I'll say this: y'all can take this as you want to take it. I don't really care if it pisses you off. I don't really care. It don't matter to me.
Mhm.
I wish they had this stuff when we were younger. I would have given anything to get into girls' bathroom.
Well, there's a lot of them that are doing that kind of stuff, which is the problem. But so here in the U.S. again, when we talked about the newspapers and magazines and how they're all controlled by 6 companies, and of course
Mm-hmm.
those companies are in collusion with one another, which is why you hear the exact same news no matter where you go,
Where
except
you go.
for
Exactly.
Fox News, okay, on the mainstream. And again, we've got this situation where, every time you turn around, somebody is shoving an advertisement down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
We are all addicted to electronic screens, okay? And it is, and they admitted 20 years ago that they had done, billions of dollars of research in order to figure out how to make these things more addictive than heroin and cocaine.
Well, right. Even the sounds are designed to be addictive.
Yeah. And this is the world that we live in. And then we wonder why there's an increase in mental illness. Well, hell, everybody's addicted. And of course, again, we talk about the things like the fact that they're putting
Well, it's not. It's
insulin.
not really like it's that. It's like they're farming out free thought and want people to be deluded.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so, and again, they're taking insulin, and instead of giving it to the people that actually have a need for it because they're diabetic,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're putting it in weight loss drugs and making tons of money off of people that won't exercise and stop eating junk and want to lose weight.
Well, though, but I'm going to say this because all my life I fought with being overweight.
No, I understand, and there are
And
folks
but no,
that
but
have
what
that
I'm
issue.
saying is though is in particular kids is a little bit different. But when you're an adult
Hmm.
and you go to the store and it's cheaper to buy the processed prefab fake
Garbage.
stuff
Hmm.
than it is to actually eat real food, and you're
Absolutely.
already having a hard time paying your bills, you don't really have it. They don't really give you an opportunity to succeed because they're setting you up for failure from the very
Right.
beginning.
Absolutely. And again, setting up, I mean, and this is, again, this goes into one of the other soapboxes that I wanted to jump on this evening. I was sitting there thinking that recently I've started hearing people talking about, and the word just went out of my head. Um, it's not circumstantial, but, it does, it's cultural. That was it. I knew it
Hmm.
started with a C. I just couldn't, I had to wait for the lazy Susan that is my brain to roll back around to the right word. Cultural Christians. Now, cultural Christian is somebody that has grown up in a Western society and believes or operates based on the Christian values in so much as anybody actually does of, do one, love thy neighbor as thyself,
Hmm.
be honest, don't steal, don't commit adultery, whatever. Okay. And those are, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you type thing. But they don't believe that Christ existed or walked on the water or healed the sick, and all of that stuff because they've bought into the, dogma of, you know, everything's scientific. There's no creator at the base of creation, etc.
Hmm.
So cultural Christianity, and I sat and was thinking about it today. I was at church today and was thinking of, I mean, it just had stuck in my head, and I, that's one of the problems, okay? And that's one of the reasons that Western society is falling because we seem to have this belief that, you do you and I'll do me and everything's going to be fine instead
Hmm.
of actually looking into what it is they say they believe. I mean, you can recite the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed and completely ignore every word in it. Just, I mean, you can do the same thing with the Lord's Prayer and ad infinitum. And and then
Well,
you
I mean,
make it. Go
that
ahead.
goes back to the old thing. You can be religious about anything.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And most of the people that I have seen, like in this vein that you're going with cultural Christians,
Mhm.
they're not Christians
No, no,
because what they
absolutely not.
turn to in their time of need is not Jesus Christ.
No,
You can
Absolutely.
be a religious dope smoker if that's what you turn to in your time of need.
Yep.
A lot
Absolutely.
of people in this country are religious about the almighty dollar. Thank you, old George, for
Oh yeah.
providing that new Cadillac in the driveway.
Well, no, that's exactly where we are, is that we have, our country was founded, the vast majority of the educated men that were our founding fathers were ministers. They had been educated in the church, which was the primary place that you could get an education, because the church
Well,
was actually trying
also,
to
it
help
wasn't
people.
just the primary place to get education, it was also the primary charitable thing
Absolutely.
that gave health and food and everything else to the impoverished and the infirm.
Absolutely. Now, and again, I'm not trying to whitewash the history of the Christian church either,
Now, wait a minute.
because
But see, I'm gonna be honest with you. You
go ahead.
say you're not gonna whitewash the Christian church.
Mhm.
Well, I don't think the history of the Christian church needs to be whitewashing when you place it up against the other religions in the world. I
Now,
mean,
when
let's look at the Muslims. I mean,
no, I'm
their
with you.
prophets slept with a 9-year-old girl and
Mhm.
said it's okay to kill people if they don't believe what you believe.
Well, and again, but again, King David, okay, King David sent a man off to die so that he could sleep with his wife and stuff like that. So there's the bottom line is that the religion itself, Christianity, Judaism, and
The
whatnot,
Abrahamic
the
religions,
Abrahamic religions, of which Islam is an Abrahamic
it
religion.
is, because it is traced
Mohammed,
back to one of the descendants of Abraham.
right, Mohammed was an Orthodox Christian, from what I
Let's
understand.
just say that for that branch of the family religion, they were the ones that should have been on the front page of the paper.
Well, the thing is, it was his teachings were corrupted by, I think it was Abdul al Ibn, after he passed away. So after Muhammad passed away. That was something I heard that actually shocked me tremendously. But again, you can, if you read through the
Well,
surahs.
I think I read somewhere it said Jesus Christ is mentioned more in the Quran
Mhm.
than he is in the Bible.
Right, but the Quran contradicts itself in what it says, because again, the Quran tells you first off that if you are Jewish, that you must believe and adhere to the Torah, because that's the word of God that was given to you for your guidance in your language. If you're a
Hmm.
Gentile, you must refer to and believe in the gospel, because that's what was given to again, the Jews and the Gentiles as guidance in their language. And the purpose of the Quran was supposed to be to give those truthful teachings from the Torah and the gospel to the Arabic people in their tongue. But then they
Right.
turned around and said, yeah, but he was just kidding about Christ being crucified, and Christ really wasn't the Messiah and all that stuff. So, and you can't, both of them can't be true. The gospel either has to be true and you believe it, which I believe
Well,
is true.
now wait a minute.
Go
The
ahead.
Quran, it does say it. The Quran does not teach that Jesus teaches that Jesus was not crucified
That is
or
correct. It does.
resurrected, but
Mhm.
instead their take on it is a little bit different. They believe that Jesus was miraculously saved by God and then ascended into heaven.
Well, they
And the Quran
actually,
also comes out and says that Jesus will return as a sign to mankind.
well, now, so that's an interesting take. And I don't know those Suryas or whatever I don't know how to pronounce it, but those verses.
Hmm.
But the verses that I'm familiar with in the Quran say that it was all a hoax, that they pretended to crucify him and they didn't really do it. But it doesn't matter. I don't want to.
Well, I mean
I'm not
that's
a
kind of like picking that shit out of pepper.
right, exactly. But regardless, it's you know that this is the point. When you're faced with a situation of doing good and promoting, because again, I don't, the only problem I have with cultural Christians is that they are okay with people with doing evil themselves to get ahead, and with other people doing evil to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big problem I have with cultural Christians. Oh, it's okay if you cheat somebody in a business deal because that's just business. It's okay if you turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to your buddy when he's cheating on his wife or whatever because it's none of my business and I'm a good person and he's really got a good heart. He's just confused.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of
Well,
thing.
it's like, well, like I know in the Quran they talk about the birth of Jesus,
Uh-huh.
and that goes hand in hand with what they say is his first miracle,
Mm.
because when he was born, he spoke as an infant in the cradle and declared himself to be a prophet of God.
Right, and there's a lot of, and I believe they're Gnostic texts that
Hmm.
talk about stuff that was not included in the canon of Christianity, of the Christian Bible, that talk about things like that. And it's none of us were around back then
Right.
to see these things.
Well,
But the Bible, of course, that I grew up and read, it says that his first miracle was it, and he told his mother, "It's not my time yet." But his first miracle was turning water into wine at the wedding feast.
right.
So
That
that's canon.
that was after the Council of Nicaea and all that, when they actually put the Bible together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the modern Bible. And again,
Right.
none of us were back there at the time. So, and I had a black friend that was always really fond of pointing out that Jesus was not white. Well, Jesus was Jewish. Of course, he
See,
wasn't
right.
white, but that
But
it
they,
doesn't matter.
but tradition does stand that they think that the person that the Romans ordered to carry his cross to Calvary was a black man.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Well, and again, none of that matters. Okay, I mean, if it's like if you come to Jesus through a picture of Jesus that's plaid with pink polka dots, more power to you. You come to as long as you come to an understanding that God is not the almighty dollar and God is not a doorknob and God is not a flying spaghetti monster,
Hmm.
then then you got a chance at making it. And that's my opinion on that matter. But
Well,
again.
the thing, what I find kind of baffling, and
Mhm.
it is this is kind of not along. This is not really what you're talking about, but it's kind of along the same lines. Is when you look at this stuff and you look at how everything is, there is a golden formula that it permeates mathematics, the universe, and everything.
Mhm.
There is too much perfection and too much precision, that where you would not have expected this to be random.
Oh, that was exactly our Bucky Fuller, our Buckminster Fuller, who, was a secularist for most of his life, reached a point where he realized that there was a pre-order intelligence at work in the universe. Now, I mean, the problem is we try to comprehend the finite or the infinite with a finite mind, and we simply
Right.
can't do that. Now,
Exactly.
again, my point being, the simplest thing that I always boil it down to is that everything in the universe, everything in nature goes from high energy, low entropy to low energy, high entropy. So it
Hmm.
goes from high energy and order to low energy and disorder. So you can't take a stick of dynamite out into a quarry and just blow shit up until you build a Buick. It just won't ever happen.
Right.
It's not possible. So there has to, so there has to be a pre-order intelligence at work to create all of the things that we have for life to have come about and everything like that.
Hmm.
That's just simple common sense to my way of thinking. Is that pre-order intelligence something I'm capable of comprehending and understanding? No, because I can't wrap my brain around how big the universe is.
Well, and
So,
that goes back to the most important thing that you are asked to have as a Christian or as a Muslim or anybody following any religion, and that is faith in
well,
what you're
yeah.
being told and what you're taught.
Well, and this is the thing. My whole thing is, again, back to the whole cultural Christian. I'm okay with the whole cultural Christianity and everything like that. And I wish everybody would adopt that same. And I'm okay with whatever, however you want to worship and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That's your choice. But how
Well, and
about
but
we
you know
go
the
back to the standards of respecting people,
right.
respecting one another, and more than you respect, yourself.
Well, and
Okay,
that goes back to the way it used to be in politics. You can
exactly.
do like we always have said. We don't care who you sleep with. We
Mhm.
don't care who you want to marry or what you're doing. Just don't expect me to believe the same way that you believe and let me be me and I'll let you be you.
Well, and how about stop stealing from the citizenry to make yourselves rich? And how about stop nepotism and favoritism and cronyism? Now, this has
Mhm.
been around since the beginning of time, but I don't think it was as bad and as blatant as it is now.
Mhm.
And it's like, let's get rid of the monopolies. Let's break these things up. And regulate the things that should be regulated and deregulate the things that don't need to be regulated. Reduce the size of the government by 75% or more, and give people the opportunity to live their lives without having your boot heel on their throat.
Well, the problem is they're not going to do that
No,
because
they're
we've
not.
seen that time and again with Ruby Ridge,
Oh yeah.
Waco, and other instances of where the government thinks that they know the best and
Hmm.
are the end all be it all, and that our rights stem from them instead of the hand of Almighty God.
Well, and
You
I
know,
was go ahead.
I saw a video making its rounds on I think it was Instagram, and I don't know if they're Chinese or Japanese. It's one of those languages that draw them little lines.
Hmm.
But these kids are learning martial arts.
Right.
And I mean, these kids don't look, I would say in the video, if I had to guess, I would say they're 8, 9, or 10 years old, right?
Okay. Mhm.
And they're in the dojo and they're squared up to each other. And I mean, they are just taking turns, just punching each other as hard as they can in the torso and the chest.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here thinking, these kids are doing that. And the kids in the United States don't even know what gender they are because their parents are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And again, I don't even know. I'm so locked up. I can't even figure out what to say with
Boy,
it.
it's high
It's
on them soapboxes. The air's thin. You can't even think.
Well, I mean, it's just I want to live and let live,
But
but
there
the
is no live and
delusion.
let live with them. That's the
No, there's
problem.
not. That's the whole thing. And you hear, well, the whole, every time you turn around, so, you hear another intelligent, heavy thinker saying something like, well, at this point, it looks like civil war is inevitable. Okay. So you got this was a new one I heard just today. The WHO is telling every nation on the globe to be prepared for pandemic style lockdowns because of the monkeypox.
I thought that's been around forever.
Well, again, they locked down, they turned off the whole world because of a case of the flu to get Joe
But now,
Biden
now, wait a
elected.
minute. In all fairness, that
Mhm.
wasn't just the flu. That was the Wuhan flu because that was
Right.
engineered and released by the Chinese. And let's not make any bones or mistakes about that.
Well, no, that absolutely was. It was, and it did terrify me when I first heard about it. But fortunately, God is still in charge, and the virus did exactly what all other viruses do, which is become less deadly and more virulent, more easily. transmitted.
Transmitted.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because that's what they do. It's not in their interest to destroy their host. So, I mean, again, the variant that was
That's
released from the
because a
Wuhan lab,
virus is just like a damn tick, just like anybody
yeah,
that works for any government agency.
right. But again, it's the variant that was originally released from the Wuhan lab was every dadgum bit as deadly as they made it out to be, and it
Right.
it killed a
And
whole
guess
bunch of
what?
people. Mhm.
We paid for it
Yep, we
because
did.
Anthony Fauci and his department sent millions of dollars over there to fund that research, whether
Yep,
he admitted it or not, because it's already come out with proof in the budgets and the numbers and the books saying that he did.
yep, absolutely. But
And
again,
that rascal should be prosecuted as a traitor and hung.
well, again, all of them should. I'm sorry, but it's this is at the very least every dadgum one of those people needs to be doing jail time because we can't continue to allow our government officials to be criminals. We can't
Does
because
that
they
mean Donald Trump can't be president?
well, I don't have any evidence that he is a criminal. What I have evidence of is that he was taken through lawfare over misdemeanors that were through novel legal theory were raised to the level of felonies because they're so terrified of letting somebody that's not part of their club. I mean,
And
again,
which the federal government and the election commission declined to do anything with because they didn't
absolutely,
meet any standards.
exactly.
That just shows and proves to you that New York City is a third, and New York State is a third world shithole.
Yep.
And if you live there, God help you, because, and I hope God has mercy on you, because you were in the den of iniquity and the
Hmm.
viper pit there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and again, that's kind of the point is that we have a bunch of crime families that,
Well,
there's
and when you
that are
say
running
crime
the government.
families, you're not talking about Gambino, Colombo, Genovese, and all that. You're talking Biden, Clinton,
Yep.
Obama,
Yep.
McConnell,
Absolutely. McConnell.
all of those,
Right. All of them.
Schumer,
Yeah.
Pelosi.
That's exactly right. And I mean, again, we should not have career politicians, but not just them. The people running the deep state, which is all of the alphabet organizations, the IRS, the Department of Justice, the Department of, I mean, all of them. They're
Well,
all
I'll tell you
also
what,
corrupt.
we're going to start investigating and to start doing the redneck agenda for real. We're going to get on the ballot next time, so they got an option that says none of the above.
Well, we should. I mean, but again, it's
Because
that's the
I
whole
can tell
point.
you right now, if I get elected, if you refer to it by three letters, it's going to be expurgated. It's going to be gone. There ain't no point in having it.
Well, and well, we do need to have some. I mean, we need to have minimal government. Minimal government. There needs to be enough government that we don't have utter chaos, but nothing beyond that. And the government has no business being in banking. The government has no business being in healthcare. All of that stuff. I mean,
The
I'm
government has
okay.
no business being in education either.
Absolutely, because they've made a mess out of every dadgum thing they touch. You
I
know,
mean, obviously that's true because they can't even build a dad blame website.
yeah, that's the truth. And it just the whole thing. If you think about how far we could advance if we were not being constantly hobbled by this political nonsense. Okay. I mean, you see every time when you took the space race out of the hands of the government and it went into the hands of private industry, we developed rockets that we don't have to just throw space trash out into the galaxy. The dadgum
Right,
thing comes back down and lands itself.
right.
Well, the government couldn't do that because it wasn't
Well,
important to
some
them.
people say the government didn't land on the moon either.
Well, I know people say all kind of things, and you know what?
Well, I wouldn't put it. I don't usually buy into a lot of conspiracy theories.
Mhm.
Okay, Kennedy's a different story because there's video proof. Of course, they didn't have that till later, but there's video proof that you can see to where that got called into question, particularly when the nitrate test had even proven that Oswald haven't even fired a rifle that day.
Yeah.
The only modern conspiracy theory that really has kind of intrigued me is 9/11.
Well, yeah,
And
because
I'm not
buildings.
saying 9/11 was not real. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah,
What
but
I'm saying is all the best pilots in the private sector
mm,
and the military tried to fly the same path that an unwashed goat humper
mhm.
did and flew a plane into the Pentagon, and not one of them could recreate what he did.
Well, yeah, and again, the video footage shows what looks like a missile strike, and of course you can't find that anymore. But again, that
Right,
and
but
the fact.
I find it convenient that the day before 9/11 or the couple days before, Rumsfeld had a press conference saying the Pentagon had lost track of several
Oh
billion
yeah.
dollars worth of spending, and then
Mhm.
lo and behold, a plane hits the Pentagon in the direct location where all those records are supposedly stored.
Right. And again, the towers, skyscrapers don't fall straight down. That's a controlled implosion. The only way that
Right,
that's possible is to remove the internal supports from the structure. And then of course you've got the twin towers that fell, and then building 7 fell also
right,
with a
which they
controlled
had
implosion.
reported that had already fallen
Right.
on the BBC, and the BBC was doing a live shot, and you can clearly see that Building 7 is plainly standing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's a mess, and all of this stuff is just the machinations of people who are who well, I mean, again, what is it? The whole thing about power corrupts and absolute power corrupts
Power corrupts,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And so that.
Did you watch Spider-Man?
Yes, it did. Which
Well,
one?
that's it. Well, that's not what they say, in it says with great power comes great responsibility.
Yep, absolutely.
And because I've been rewatching the Spider-Man movies, and I ended up rewatching the last Avengers movie,
In
and I'm
game.
glad they're not making those movies anymore because that movie sucked.
What, in game?
The one where Spider-Man dies at the end.
Oh, that's Infinity War. There's
Yeah, that one.
yeah, Infinity War precedes Endgame. You got
Well,
to
that
watch
one
Endgame.
sucks.
Well,
Well,
it was meant
that
to.
one just popped up and I hit it, but I'd been I watched the Tom Holland. I like Tom Holland. I think he's a good actor. I like him. He seems like a nice kid,
Mhm.
and I like watching him. I think he does a good job of Spider-Man. So I had rewatched the over the past few nights. Rewatched I guess it's the three movies that he starred as Spider-Man in.
Mhm.
And I really think he does a good job. I think he's probably been. I like him better as Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield.
Well, and yeah, again, he's there. Each one of them was from a different iteration of Spider-Man.
Right.
But you need to watch Endgame because again, remember the whole. Yeah, now I know you're more of a DC and I'm more of a
And
Marvel, but so the Crisis on Infinite
Spider-Man though
Earths.
is the only one that I really like in Marvel.
Right, but you remember the Crisis on Infinite Earths saga arc started with
Yes.
Flashpoint. Okay, so Endgame is very similar, or Infinity War and Endgame are very similar. To that, so you need to watch Endgame because that wraps it up. And again, Infinity War was the predecessor to Endgame. So
Okay.
and again, the arc that every comic story always goes through for every hero is the hero. The villain shows up, the hero's not expecting it, the hero gets his butt kicked, and everything, when it looks at its absolute darkest and bleakest, the hero reaches down, pulls himself up by his bootstraps, figures out a way
Hmm.
to defeat the villain, and the villain is defeated. So
Well, and
Infinity
that
War
the
is
idea
that
like
part.
that
Yeah.
though with the multiverse,
Mhm.
because they've got it in both of them.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
multiple versions of Spider-Man, the multiple versions of Batman, and all
Right.
this.
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of the multiverse stuff because it gets confusing and it gets a little stupid.
Yeah, but it allows them to keep recycling the same storylines over and over.
Well, that'd be great. But
Yeah.
if you're gonna recycle the storylines, but in the movies, particularly for DC, they don't do that. They just keep telling the same story.
Well, I've got two movies for you they're both
Nefarious.
no, these are ones that I've watched recently,
Oh, okay.
and
Well,
one of
Nefarious
them.
was a good movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think you'll enjoy both of these as well. They will both surprise you, and because they're sufficiently different that you don't really. It's not a movie where you know 5 minutes into it what the
Okay.
end's going to be.
Those are the good ones. Those are the good
Yeah,
ones.
and they'll make you think. But you got to pay attention to both of them very closely, or you will be completely lost. The first one is based on a short story written by Robert Heinlein, and it is called Predestination.
Okay.
And you can find that on Amazon Prime, and it's free,
Okay.
included with Prime. You do have some
Which is
commercials, but
unusual because usually if it's something worth watching, they want you to buy it.
oh yeah, but it is worth watching. I think you'll enjoy it. It's about a time traveler, basically a time traveling cop who is trying to stop a bomber called the Fizzle Bomber that sets these bombs and kills hundreds of people, mass murder
Hmm.
type thing. And so he's jumping back and forth through time, trying to catch and stop and prevent the bombs that the Fizzle Bomber is um, setting off. And that's all I'm going to tell you about that because the story will blow your mind. And the
Okay.
other one is called Serenity with Matthew McConaughey, which is different from the
Okay.
Serenity, which was the conclusion of the Firefly series, where he is it's kind of, it starts out as kind of a take of the old man and the sea because he's a
Okay.
fisherman and he is obsessed with catching a fish that he starts out calling the beast and he finally names it Justice, and it's a tuna that's the size of a beluga whale.
Wow. The big tuna.
Oh, it's a big tuna. And so, but it takes a arc and a spin that you'll never suspect when his ex-wife shows up and wants him to take her new husband out on a boat and throw him, get him drunk and throw him over the side for the sharks. And that's all stuff that you can get out of the trailer on both movies. So, but I
Okay.
recommend both of them highly. I just told
All right.
my children to watch them because they'll twist your brain into a different shape. Both of them will.
Well, that Nefarious will kind of do that too, though.
Oh yeah. But again, nefarious for a
The
different
book was
reason.
more eye-opening, so to speak, than the movie.
I have not read the book yet. I'm going to have to do that. Did you buy the
I
actual paper book, or did you go
Well,
the
no, I
normal
actually
route?
got it on Audible and listened to it
Oh, okay. Well, I might do that.
because I have sometimes I have long commutes and it's easier I find I focus better and get more done if I play a podcast or an audiobook than trying to find something to listen to. Because when I put on a playlist,
Hmm.
I'll find that I tend to just continue to fast forward because I don't want to really hear any of the songs that are playing.
Well, and again, it reduces my road rage greatly if I have something to focus on other than the idiots that are on the road being idiots.
Right.
So,
That's me 100%.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And guess what?
Would.
That brings us to the end of this week's show.
All right. Well, I don't know if I got all of my soapboxes addressed, but I think I
Well,
got
there's
most of them.
always next week.
That's true, my friend. Well, I've enjoyed it.
I have too. And with that, that's the snout to the curly tail and everything in between. And we gone.
Have a good evening, sir.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuck. Wait, can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry. I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND, get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.